the opportunity to say a few words before she does her part of the presentation. Ma'am, this isn't the time right now, I'm sorry.
Can I just ask a question?
Not at this moment.
But why?
Because if I allow your question right now, then I'm obligated to let everybody else ask the question. And right now, we're doing a presentation. I'm doing a presentation right now. Ma'am, you're out of order. Ma'am, you're out of order. And if you can't take a seat, I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
I know, but you have.
I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Would you please leave? Would you either sit and listen to the presentation or leave?
It's not right. It's not right. It's not right.
What I asked Councilor Alves is that I'd like to take an opportunity to say a few words. Starting off with the Budget Committee. There's been a lot said about the Budget Committee in this town. Some of them have been vilified, and it's wrong. So I would like to introduce you to your Budget Committee in this town. It's five individuals. It's five individuals who devote an enormous amount of personal time meeting between the months of January and June, at least once a week, doing their work. And their work is to examine budgets across the whole town, all departments. Starting off with the Budget Committee Chairman, Michael sitting over here, probably the person who's been vilified the most. He's somebody who's been employed for 33 years as an educator. In addition to that, he's got numerous courses in accounting and financing and economics. Next is Meredith Nato, who's the Secretary of the Budget Committee, sitting right over here. Meredith is the Executive Vice President of the PTG Group. She served in the Budget Committee since 2010, and she oversees that company's finances and operations, including its annual budget. Next is Mr. Zamorano. He's the Executive Director of the Attleboro Housing Authority. He's been a Senior Budget Analyst and Financial Analyst for 15 years. Also has a degree in accounting. Next is Mary Jo Valet. She's the Vice Chair. She's actually an auditor. She works at the DOT auditing their accounts. She served in the Budget Committee for 4 years. Lastly is Mr. Winkleman, who's out of town this evening. He's the newest member of the Budget Committee. He's a credentialed actuary, mathematician. These people who serve on this committee are not political hacks, as they may have been made out to be. Secondly, I put up here the description from the town charter about the responsibilities of the Budget Committee. I can tell you with certainty, and I've met with all of them numerous times, this committee is not about trying to shortchange the schools, despite how they've been characterized. I can assure you of that. Their job is to inspect all department budget requests across the whole town and to investigate whether the amount that's being requested is correct, to analyze their budgets, and to have the departments explain their own estimates and recommendations. So I thought it was important to take a moment before Councilor Alves discusses some of the other reasons why the town council has arrived at the location that it has now, why we're where we are. I thought it was important to say a word or two about the Budget Committee, and I'm very thankful as town council president for the amount of time and effort that you have devoted on behalf of this town. Thank you very much.
Okay, this is main purpose. I just want to get out some facts, because I know there's a lot of he said, she said going on in town, and I just want to give some visual points so that somebody may take away from tonight and actually think about some of the reasons why we are having questions as to just writing a blank check. And I also want to just let you know that I am not in support of your cuts, because I am the only counselor who has kids in the system. And I don't want their school experience to be cut short. But we do have to get answers, and we cannot just write a blank check because it's going to continue to happen. 2009 was the first year we had to pay to play. I don't know if anyone remembers that. But that year, that was what the school was trying to pass, and it got opposed by RIDE, which is the Rhode Island Department of Education, the ACLU, and the Interscholastic League. They had a $54,000 sports deficit out of a total of $240,000 sports budget. That's when the Northland Athletic Club was formed, known as the NAC, and they were the only authorized fundraising club for the school sports. They raised $140,000 and was given to the school department, but then they disbanded. Then we go 2 years after that to 2011. And then we had to transfer another additional $378,000 to the school due to a deficit, when the actual deficit was $265,000. They gained a surplus of $112,000. The town asked for the money to be returned, and that was denied. Now we go 2 more years ahead, the current time, and now we're looking at a $470,000 deficit. Do you see how this keeps happening? We have to get answers, and we have to stop it. This is prior to the FY14 budget. The school department did not list all anticipated revenue in the budgets which were submitted and approved by the town council. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of unbudgeted revenue was spent by the school department, resulting in overspending the legal limits of the town council appropriation. Reported in June 2013, FY12 encumbrances were overstated by approximately $187,000 in the school budget. When requested by the town auditors, the school department failed to provide original purchase orders to support encumbrances reported at June 30, 2012. And if you would refer to the Secretary of State's guideline page, which has retention records, they request that all original purchase orders are held for 6 years. We could not get any original copies. The fund balance was originally stated as approximately $29,800. It should have been approximately $134,000. Therefore, the fund balance was understated by approximately $104,000. Now we come to the single audit issue. The Auditor General requested that the school and the town utilize the services of one audit firm. They state, please submit a joint request for approval of the bid specifications in accordance with our guidelines for audit bid specifications for municipalities and regional school districts. The town has been requesting that the school department collaborate on a single audit. State law and charter delegates audit responsibility and selection of auditor to the town council for all municipal departments, including the school department. The Auditor General sent a letter in July 2013 outlining expectations for a single combined audit. This fall, the school committee submitted bid specs to the Auditor General for doing the whole audit. Specs were rejected. School committee now has legal funds to protest the Auditor General's recommendations. Access to information. What the Budget Committee has been requesting, which is not out of the ordinary like any other town, is budgets to be an Excel version, so they don't have to spend numerous hours on recreating these spreadsheets. They're wasting their valuable time by trying to recreate information that they should already be given. A 3-year expenditure history by line item. They were also told they could not get this. How can you do a budget when you don't have previous expenditures? There's no way of doing a budget without having a history. Verification of data supporting projected deficit. School officials need to participate in a meeting when Budget Committee provides recommendations to town council. There was numerous meetings or requested meetings that went unheard. People were not attending, the full committee wasn't there. That shouldn't happen. If you want us to meet, we try and meet, we need everybody to attend. It's the only way we can get answers.
questions that remain. When was the projected deficit first revealed? This is a question that has never been answered, at least not to what I want to hear. Just because there was hiring going on, it should have probably been given to us back in October. But then, is it coming now because we only have a month before we have to report whether Mountain Next sports? And we have to write a blank check. We should have been advised back in October and November or even December. Verification of the primary cause of the projected deficit. Do we even know why there's a deficit? Can anybody tell us where the deficit is coming from? Why do anticipated revenue numbers not match? Different school departments document report different amounts of anticipated revenue. Why will the school department not collaborate with the town in a single audit? Don't you think this would save money instead of spending more money? But we can't get that to happen. Why are capital outlays expensive to the operating budget? Where have funds come from? What line items are funds being taken from? We can't get those answers. And I just want to end with this one as our path forward. Town council proposed an agreement. The town commits to cover the alleged deficit as described up to $470,000. But we need help on this. We need to be that halfway. We need to get information. We need to work together in order for that to happen. It is our job to be a watchdog of the taxpayers' money. And if we don't know where it's going, how can we spend it? Schools agree to collaborate with town and budget committee. Plan would allow an immediate call to enacted planned cuts that directly affect students. It would also address long-term fiscal reforms desperately needed to avoid what seems like a perennial controversy that divides our community.
Just like we've been saying for the last 4 years.
Any reasonable fix requires that we understand and verify the extent of the alleged deficit. Absent that, it's simply writing a blank check. We've got a great school system. Let's get this done and get on with becoming the best. Last week when we gave our proposal, we were accused of it was a control issue. It's not a control issue.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, and we're all leaving, but I just want to say today, you don't let students down. You have let this town down, and you're all very disappointed. So goodbye and good night.
You're out of order. Folks, what I want to say to conclude on this is this town council isn't sitting before you tonight trying to figure out how we can starve the school of needed funds. What we're trying to do is to keep this from happening every 2 or 3 years. It happens every 2 or 3 years, and it divides the community. And a big part of the problem is we can't get full transparency and accountability from the school department. I'm sorry, that's the problem. And so we propose an agreement tonight that does 3 main things. One is that it agrees to cover the entire amount of the projected deficit up to $470,000. 2, it requires the school committee to fully cooperate with the town and to provide full disclosure and full cooperation. So we're proposing that we have an agreement, we have an attorney, he deals with this. He has consultants available to come in to help us to verify the extent of the deficit. This is not about, we hear, and I've heard other people's playbooks, trust but verify. And what we're trying to do is to verify. If we can verify, we will take action and we'll sign a written agreement with the school committee to transfer the funds. It's that simple. It's that simple. Does anybody else have anything to add? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Farr. opportunity to speak. The proposal by the majority of the council to fund on the last day of the fiscal year just doesn't work for a whole myriad of reasons. And I would hope, obviously I'm in the minority, but I would hope that the majority of the council reconsider. As I stated last meeting, as I stated in the meeting before, I think you need to fulfill the obligation of the promise to send over the 240. The 240 was planned, run a sports program, we'll send it over, send that over. Do the due diligence or whatever investigation you want on the remaining 230, but send it over. If I was the school department right now, and I had a promise on the table from the majority, 3 out of 5 of this town council, that they would pay $490 on the last day of the fiscal year, I'd be saying, you didn't give us the 240, what makes you think we're going to get the $490? So you need to the majority of this council needs to reconcile that, and you need to do something, because if the $490 is going to the last day of the year, they don't know whether it's coming or going, because as far as they're concerned, we lied to them, because we said we were going to give them 240, and we didn't as a town. And I think you need to at least show the good faith and get it over there, and then we can discuss how we're going to go and investigate and try to figure out what happened and how to avoid it in the future and everything else. But somebody has to start somewhere, and I'm imploring the 3 of the majority in this council, one of you, please, just sit back and take a look at that. And then let's compromise and send it over, and let's start to argue about the 230 and discuss it and figure out whether it's needed and figure out whether we should do it and figure out whether the budget board's getting enough information and figure out if we're going to get some kind of auditor in there or whether we're going to do this, that, or the other thing. But until somebody makes the first move, we're just going to keep on. I told you this 4 weeks ago, Mr. President. I said, if you don't get a handle on this, we're not going to get any other work done. And I would like to get some other work done. We have charter revisions on the table. We have building commission things on the table. We got a lot of stuff we want to do, and we should be doing as a council. And we're wasting time. Send the 240 over. Do it right now. If I'm out of order, let me make the motion, and you can tell me I'm out of order. I make a motion, we send the 240 over now, and then discuss the 230 after. That's my motion.
Second by Mr. McGee, discussion. I will say we have had this discussion. We had it most recently 1 week ago. I remain firmly in the position that the town council did not promise 240, but I understand that there is widespread perception that we did. And what I'm prepared to say is I could be convinced to take action on the 240 this evening, but only if there is agreement on the rest of the council to move forward with an agreement, such as we have presented before us this evening, that ensures full accountability going forward. That's fine. We're in the middle of a motion, sir. So I'd like to hear from the town council. We have a motion that's been seconded, and we're having a discussion, and I would entertain any further discussion from the council.
I'm tired of every time we make a motion, there's something else we gotta jump through hoops each time. Why can't we just go with the motion? I agree totally with Mr. Yazbek, and we've been standing from the beginning. The 240 was budgeted. We said we were gonna send that over. That would help us a lot, and then we could get to the next step. Then at least we could get people in the room again. For everyone to leave again, you know, we're all busy. This was a complete waste of time. Were we in executive session too long? Oh, definitely. Did we do it wrong? Definitely. Our mistake, you know? But to walk out and just come in and get a hurricane thrown at us and then just walk out was equally disgusting. So, I mean, nothing's going to be solved if we keep banging heads. And I think the best thing we can do is settle half of it right now, and we all know that's what we need to do. And without saying, well, I'll be swung this way if you go with my motion to this. I don't want to be torn to anyone's motion other than the ones I believe in. And the one I believe in is what was said, promised, and that's the way it should go. And I'm not moving my position on that at all.
My support for making any transfer of the 240 is contingent upon this council agreeing to move forward with the agreement that we have for
Motion on the table, Mr.
I understand. I'm just telling you what my position is.
Call a motion, please.
Okay, so we have only a motion at this point to transfer $240,000.
Wait a second, they call the vote, Mr. President.
I'm just reminding folks with the
We already
motion.
have
Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you take the roll call vote?
Mr. House,
Can you just confirm what the motion is?
motion was to spend $240,000 over now and then work on the rest.
No.
Yes.
Yes, Pat?
Yes.
Mr. Zelinski?
No.
Mr. Flaherty?
No. Motion fails.
Are you kidding me?
Would anybody like to make another motion?
I'd like to make another motion. Could I sit down with someone from the school committee, even my brother? I'd love to sit down and talk to one person and find out what the problems are from both sides. Because obviously the leaders of this crew can't get together. So why don't we just get a bunch of people that are average people, and they sit down, no egos, no nothing, we'll just sit down, sit in the garage and you sit there and say, hey, these are the problems. And you just come up with them. It's not, I feel like the Verizon commercial, it's not that hard. It really isn't. So I mean, really, you could sit down with a couple of people and come up with what the problem is. There's two different sides of the story, and I'm trying to get my head around all of it. And what happens is, on the town council side, the mistrust is they're hiding money. And all right, I get that. Well, all of a sudden, you can't like, some people think that you give someone some money, like say they're going on a trip, you give a kid $100, and he goes on the trip, but he spent $120. Well, that's what the council is looking at. He spent $120, why are we going to give him $120? And on the school side is, you gave me $100, you gave me $100, Dad, but the trip was really $120. So they feel that they were underfunded. And that's the problem. You got two different scenarios, and to just have this fight all the time that, well, we're walking out, we're not doing it, we don't like you don't like, sit down and get together as adults and work this out. It's not that hard. We haven't tried it. Everyone lost control tonight, and it didn't work. Because why?
We were supposed to be doing a joint meeting tonight, not a town council meeting.
Donna, honest to God, I sat down at the Haven with you. We had great conversation, Donna and I, and we said, geez, I hope it works out all right. And we were both praying that this was going to work out. And look what happened. I'd love to sit down with you, and you take your side, find out their problems, I find mine. I'd love to sit with you, and we both sit down, no egos, and we work it out.
But many people don't want to sit at that table.
I know. Well, why don't we just send 2 reps? If it could be 4, I don't think we need 1 and 2. Get your side, get our side, come back, and you talk to each one.
I would love to do that.
I think it's the best way. You need 2 responsible adults with no egos.
You need a couple of responsible adults. But then you go back to a table where even when all things make sense, you got 3 saying no and 2 saying yes, and that doesn't seem to be changing over the last 3 weeks.
That's why I like dealing with you.
I know.
You know, that's what we gotta do. You gotta go one-on-one, and there's gotta be some kind of friendship involved. And I mean, you're exactly right. And believe me, we can't help to split votes. You know, you can't make a person change what they believe.
I know.
And that's the thing. We have to. So that if we can't get them to do that, we have to do is work together and say, hey, what can we do to make someone turn into a vote that would work for all of us? That's what we need to do, because obviously, we're not playing in the sandbox very well. 3-2, whatever. So, I know I can do it. I would challenge you guys. I sit one-on-one, and I can listen to Miss Hamilton and everybody on the council. I'll find out what they need, what you need, and we've got a proposal here that could work. This could work, that they have. But I think the problem is, there's so much animosity right now that nobody wants to listen to someone wants to be right and save the day here. No one's going to save the day unless we all get together. So please, let's get together. Excuse me?
Folks have the opportunity to be right and save the day.
Order, please.
Excuse me.
Council have the floor.
Excuse me. Sir, I like the way you talked the other day. Everything you said, I kind of agree on. And I'm glad you're talking. A guy like you would be a big help. We need more people that can get along with people and say intelligent things and not fight. I'd love to get everyone together and just do this, but everyone together is not working here. We're going to get small groups, and it's really not hard. So let's try to work together and come up with some plan. Who cares who makes the agreement? We don't need a hero. Just come up with a plan, and we'll be glad to. We're saying this new agreement now, it does fully fund everything and does everything. It's just the way everything's presented. I think if we all sit down and look at it without everybody being so negative about everything, I think some things could go. So, Donna, did you look at the new piece tonight?
I thought this was going to be a much better meeting than it was, to be honest.
When you put on the draft, now we need a meeting.
We came at 6:30, it opened at 7. This was not a town council meeting. The meeting was open to the public, I thought, at 7 o'clock. That's what I had.
Yeah.
So I didn't think it was a town council specific meeting.
And that's true.
But the only problem is, here's the last thing I'll say, it's your meeting, so you continue because we did leave. But here's my biggest concern. Spring is around the corner. It doesn't matter if we get to the sports, so whatever's going to happen, we have a graduation to think about, we have things to think about, we need to all stop being on the same page. There's going to be trouble moving forward because even if we get past this year, there's so much we need to keep all the extra things in the school for our kids who really deserve to have the music and the sports and everything they have. There's a lot of work ahead. But for this year, we're running out of time. Spring's around the corner. Graduation is around the corner.
And Donna, I totally agree. And not everyone stays. I mean, bad. Executive session. Bad. I agree. That was way too long. But we have to be able to talk just like we're doing now. See how we're talking? That's what has to be done. Two people respecting each other.
We talked the other day, and just like you did, I went around looking pretty stupid now because I really thought we were starting to be on the same page, and we were all going to come up with something that resolved the problem tonight. So I went around, as silly I guess I was, to make people calm them down, let them know we're all working together, it's going to get better soon, to come to this. This isn't better. After people left, we don't have any answers still, and now we're going to another week waiting to see who's going to vote for what.
Totally agree. But I think we all lost patience here tonight, and that's what happened. If we would have all started like we started just now, I think everything would have been all right.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think from starting from now, if we can continue this dialect, we'll be all set. So let's see if we can stay on this note.
Councilor Zelinski.
Mr. President, I'd like to commend the school committee for narrow-going, calm, staying. Thank you so much. Go ahead and pass this again. The dialogue, it seems that you and Councilman McGee have good rapport. It'd be great to see two of you in that room. I would just like to say that I would be amenable to releasing that $240,000. Everybody has to know one thing. That's not necessarily earmarked to athleticism or student activities. We have to understand that. That would be a show of good faith. Could do it immediately. I would vote to release that immediately. but unfortunately, 3 of the 5 school committee members left. We could have come to some type of agreement to sit down. If you allow me to speak, I would appreciate that. This town council, at least from what I get the feeling here, I think it would almost be unanimous that we would support whatever the deficit is. But we have to sit down and figure out what the deficit is. And until we do that, I have no problem sending over the $240,000 just to make everybody sleep a little better at night.
Well, why do you vote for it then?
You have a chance tonight.
You have a chance.
Blow it.
We can still blow anything. Stop, please. This is what's called negotiating. I'm feeling, Mr. McGee's making some great points. I'm hearing school committee now going, I'm ready to make that vote to send over $240,000 tonight. Does that not make you happy?
Make it on motion.
I will. But I also want you to understand that we need the school committee to start to consider what this town, it's not just all the folks that show up. There are many, many people besides the folks out there that have concern. We have an obligation to the students first. That's not, I don't decide that ever. We have an obligation to the taxpayers also. Students come first in that book. And I'm going to make a motion right now, Mr. Flaherty, to release $240,000 this evening to the school committee to be used as they see fit. And then I'm going to ask that they sit down and cooperate with us on some agreement where we can work out, where we won't be here 3, 4, 5 years from now, where we have one audit for this town. It's not a hundred. This can happen. That's a motion.
Motion's been made by Mrs. Walensky. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Yazdak. Discussion. I have some discussion I'd like to add. We did draft an agreement last week. We presented to the school committee for consideration. They rejected it. They came back with a counter proposal. We had our legal team review it, advise us against signing that agreement. In the spirit of collaboration, recognizing we want to try to work together, we amended the original proposal, which is what we're looking at this evening, and addressed some of the concerns that were raised by the school committee. For example, they got rid of the ad hoc committee. I know it worked back in 2011. That was the acceptable approach. We heard that it wasn't acceptable to the school committee this year, so we got rid of that. And included instead independent folks to be able to go in to verify the same thing that the ad hoc committee would do. So we have this agreement this evening. My only suggested amendment, and I know we have a motion on the floor, but my suggestion would be that I would be prepared to support the immediate transfer of the 240, but it's contingent upon this agreement that we've amended and will represent to the school committee. If the school committee will agree to it, then the 240 can be released. That's
the motion.
I know that was the motion, but I'm just saying that that's...
I thought you just voted on it. I thought we now agree, say,
We haven't voted yet. Pardon me? I'm seeking to amend. Right. Right. So I'm seeking to amend Councilor Walensky's motion. Mr. Flaherty, I would love to see this to be a 5-0 vote. If I amend that motion to say that the school committee must sit down, and they should sit down, I'm not going to make any qualms about this, they should sit down and look at this. I think it's a good faith effort on this town council's part to release $240,000 this evening. The ball is now in the school committee's court. Are they going to sit down? Are they going to take a look at the votes? So, students, I know most of the students left. This is for you, we're doing this. Please don't lose sight of that.
Okay, so there's no second to amend the motion. We have a motion that's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Point of order.
Should we hear an opinion from the attorney?
Here, Okay, we have a motion, it's been seconded, we've had discussion. Any further discussion?
No, if I may articulate a little better, my motion was to release $240,000 savings to the school committee. They will use it as they see fit. Now the ball is in their court, and I'm like, that's not the motion. I think that hopefully we have two committee members that are here, we can get some action. I'm seeing that now that we can make some traction here. My motion is to release $240,000 this evening to the school committee in the hope the school committee will sit down and work this out with their appointment.
I think you had a condition for a single word.
Oh, yes, thank you. And also for the single order, which the state part of the general recommends, we're the only town that doesn't do it.
That's the motion I see.
Let's just second that, Mr. Gaspar, to release $240,000 tonight to the school committee to use as they see fit, on condition that the school committee will sit with the town council, and in addition, there will be one audit done for the town and the school.
That's not the motion.
Does it refer to arriving at an agreement?
That's not the motion.
That wasn't amended.
I did not put in a writing an agreement, Mr. President.
It's a good faith gesture.
Thank you. Good faith, yes.
Good faith gesture to what?
To send
To
it
solve
for
this, don't
$40,000.
proceed and revisit it. Every graduating class 2 years out.
Which on the floor will let it work today? You want to withdraw or make a motion?
I know.
To support that.
Let's second by Mr. Gaspar to release $240,000 tonight to the school committee to use as they see fit, and then to have the school committee sit with the town council to come to an agreement and to also have one audit done for the town.
Okay, motion's been made, seconded, discussion done. Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Sal? Yes. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Gaspar?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
Mr. Flaherty?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
I would make a motion at this time to forward the latest revised agreement that was discussed in executive session, to the council to authorize me to sign the agreement and forward it to the school committee for its consideration. Is there a motion for that? Moved by Councilor Zelinski, is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Alves. Is there any further discussion?
Is it the same that was emailed this morning and discussed?
No.
Motion to forward the agreement
Okay. Motion been made and seconded. There's been discussion. Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Sal? Yes. McGee? Gaspar?
I'm not voting.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
Mr. Flaherty?
Yes, motion carries. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilor Alves, is there a second? Is there a second? Seconded by Councilor Zelinski. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're now adjourned.